they're joining us. We are the designer show with Robin and Kevin and Renee. We're absent of Dan and John this week because they're busily doing their thing, teaching in Maryland, I think.
Yeah, I think
as
so.
they gallivant across the globe doing their speech. Great times for those who have been there, and for those who haven't, you should attend at some point in time. Those are some really great sessions. Whether we're all there in the summit in the spring, whether it's an event that may be coming to your city. We talk about things that have to do with dimensions. I know it's an exciting topic. It's one that everyone looks forward to. But when we go over the coming in, one of the things that's commonly misinterpreted is the right use of different attributes of dimensions. So we assume that,
Hey, Robin's got to stop breathing so hard in the mic. Calm down.
I'm not used to this kind of a mic, so I feel like an air traffic controller.
There are a lot of things about dimensions that are subtleties, but they do have a purpose, a meaning, an impact, and there are reasons for them. For instance, I'm just going to throw one out before we turn it over to Robin about NKBA considerations. But for instance, for a long time, I used a half arrow as my favorite arrow. Why? Because it was cool. Turns out that in the community that values such things, the half arrow is supposed to simply indicate direction. It's not supposed to indicate the end of a dimension line or something else. Didn't know that. So when we look at everything from the line itself to the arrow types, to the placement, to the order, to even the specification of decimal versus feet and inches, it all is important for different reasons, and we're going to talk about that today. Robin, are you ready to talk about the NKBA standards?
Yeah, but you know what? I don't have access over my screen, so I'm probably just going to have to share this. I don't have access over the screen. I can't get into Chief because I'm only using one screen. Oh, I'm so sorry, you guys. Yeah, it's not going to, I can't work. I'm working on my son's computer. My beautiful laptop computer is in the shop, and I'm working on a little tiny little, almost a MacBook. And it's not even a MacBook. It's a Samsung little teeny tiny little thing. So I don't have the ability to actually show anything. I have to apologize for this, but I can talk you guys.
Robin.
What's that?
It is showing.
Yeah, but I can't manipulate it. I can't manipulate the screen. But so let me explain to you just a little bit about dimensions. So kitchen and bath designer. I follow the NKBA standards for dimensioning. And the way the hierarchy for the NKBA for kitchen and bath plans, right, is the first line off of your drawing in floor plan is your openings and obstacles. So windows, doors, chimneys, those kind of things. The second line is center line, third line is overall. But if we use our tools properly, when you're in your plan view and you double click on your dimension, the ruler, you double click on it, you will open up the dimension defaults. And if you set it up properly, Renee, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to let you open your screen and then I can talk you through what I'm saying. So if you're in kitchen and bath plan, and you open up your defaults for dimensions, you have control over
or a new plan.
Just let's do a floor plan.
Okay.
And just open up, go to your dimension tool and open it up. Open up the defaults for the tool. So the first thing that, as a kitchen and bath designer, you're working for interior spaces. So when you open up the defaults for dimensions, the first thing you want to do is you want to think about where you want the line to attach to. So when you open up the thing, so how I have my dimensions set, I use 4 different dimensions. I use manual, I use end-to-end, center line, and interior.
Can you guys see my modal dialog box?
Nope.
We cannot, no.
We cannot.
Oh, wow. I'm in X16. This might be a problem.
Oh, we might need to go to X15. Can you download? Can you downgrade, Renee?
Yeah, I can downgrade.
So the first thing you want to do is go to where, so as Renee talks about all the time, if you follow him at all on Facebook, stop using point to point. You only use point to point in really rare occasions. So how I use manual, end-to-end, centerline, and interior dimensions is the first thing I do is I connect where we are hitting surfaces. So I first set it up so that way it's hitting the secondary side of the exterior wall and the primary side of the interior wall, because we're doing interior dimensions, finished dimensions, sheetrock to sheetrock. The next thing that I do is I use my manual dimensions, and I only have this attached to my windows. How do I want to do it? I measure to the sides of the windows. Some designers measure to the casings of the windows. Where do you want it to attach? Then I do not use manual to connect to cabinetry at all. So it's really just openings and the obstacles, right? So it's just windows, doors, those type of things. So that's all I have it set to. So I have it set based on where do I want it to attach in my windows, right? Or in my doors. So I do sides. Some people will do casings. The next thing, and nothing in cabinetry. The next line that I use when I go to my elevation, I use end-to-end for elevations. And end-to-end is set up secondary for exterior, interior, the primary side. And then I don't use manual dimensions when I'm doing my elevations, because when we're doing elevations, we want to see when we are doing our elevations, the first line we want to dimension is cabinetry. So I have that set up to get to the sides of the cabinets. I don't do corners, I don't do center lines of it, but I do the sides of all the cabinetry. So when I'm doing elevations, my first line hierarchy, according to the NKBA, the first line is cabinetry, appliances, right? The sides of things like windows, that kind of thing. The second line is center line, third line's overall. So now that's a beautiful kitchen, Renee. Thank you. Okay. You don't have to make it fancy. It's okay. We know you're a better designer than that. Okay. But for those of you who have not noticed Renee's cabinet plan, did you see how quickly he was able to change anything? It's a tool that is definitely valuable. I would highly recommend it. And again, I don't make any compensation off of this. This is all Renee's thing. So the sales pitch that I'm giving you for it is from somebody who uses it. So I highly recommend it. Okay. So Renee, can you open up dimensions?
Yeah.
Thank you. So if you notice how he has manual set up differently than I do. I use manual for my floor plan to attack openings and obstacles. So let's look at this real quickly. If you look at wall options, he has his exterior set to the secondary side and his interior set to the primary side. I typically uncheck the secondary side in that area because I also don't display wall widths unless I need to, and I turn them on. So I use manual for floor plans, but he's using manual for his elevations, which is totally fine. And if you notice,
I'm using auto on the elevations right now.
Oh yeah, take auto off. So go to manual, can you go to end, and I'll show you how I set up my elevations. Just go to end to end. So we're in defaults. This is where I would uncheck under interior, secondary side. And then this is elevation. So I would, under cabinetry, I would definitely do openings. And Renee, how do you measure your windows? Do you measure to casings? No, openings. Nope. The first section. Go up. Uncheck that. Go up. Openings. Do you measure to in your elevation, do you measure to the outside of the casings?
In this template, I do.
Okay. So then I would check openings and casings. And then I would do under cabinetry. I do not do corners. I actually don't even understand why you would have corners. I would do just the sides because it's all we care about is how wide the cabinet is. Then we go down. So this is manual. This is for, okay. So then you could also check countertop and back and toe kick, because then it will help you with your elevations when you do your vertical dimensioning. So I would pull those two things. And then I would do the sides of fixtures and appliances.
Now you're in end to end, by the way.
Yes. And that's what I would use for my elevations. This is a dimension tool that I use for my elevations. I use manual for my floor plan, for my first line off of my drawing. I hope that makes sense.
I could show you if you wanted to do auto elevations just the way that you had it set up there. Locate all auto elevations. You'd uncheck corners. You're gonna pick up toe kick and countertops. And then you do want to show openings.
Yeah, openings to casings.
And so now if I just delete all this and redo it, now you've got, there's your setup here. Is center line to fixtures on the second line, dimensions for all cabinets, no corner there. And then
now what does it do in floor plan?
What's
now
that?
Go to floor plan, and what does it do in floor plan?
Well, it reverts to a different default for me, but if I do auto interior dimensions, this is what it's going to look like.
Well, see, according to NKBA, you don't dimension all of your cabinetry for your first line. It's only the openings and obstacles. Can you set auto dimensions to just do?
I do that separately. That's just auto exterior for me. So instead of having auto interior, I do auto exterior. This is a different template, but I switched to a different standard here. Let me just do that again.
I'm going to interrupt you both. I'm going to interrupt you both to bring up a point that is being demonstrated right here, and that's that there is no one size fits all for dimensioning. There are things that the NKBA makes their recommendations, and they make them because they're solid. They're good recommendations, and they make sense depending on what you're doing. If what you're working,
you get to say that once Robin leaves. By the way, we get to talk trash about everything she says when she leaves.
You guys are awesome. I love you both.
If you are looking at dimensioning things for kitchens and baths, where NKBA gets their motivation, then certain things make complete sense. If you look at them the way Renee's looking at them, certain things make complete sense. It happens that I do things differently than both of them. So don't be confused by trying to keep up or recognize or challenge or anything else. There's a different way depending on your needs for everything. What there is a standard on is what the actual dimensions look like, appear like, and what their purpose is for different needs. So it may look like we are in total chaos right now, and we are somewhat, because we don't have our typical what would be called our studio engineer and John running things in the background, and Dan glancing left to right and making changes on the fly. Instead, he's left the ship, and he has left it in control of the guys who typically just handle the oars. So
I don't know what we're doing.
There you go.
We'll get that up.
We're gonna struggle through this, but hopefully the message that you get overall is that there are things to pick up here. There are things to ignore here based on your own needs. And there are things that really can be standardized across all aspects of dimensioning plans.
Well, let's say this, is that it's really important to think about every single one of your plan views and what are you trying to dimension. The program gives you the opportunity to set everything up to meet your needs, not anybody else's needs. So how you dimension is, I can't stress it enough. It will save you so much time if you go through your dimension defaults per plan, per every plan view you have, and set it up to where is the dimension grabbing. And you can use the program. Yeah, and it takes a little bit of time, but once you have it set up, then you want to save it to your template, and then you will never have to do this again. So it's so important to set it up. It's also, you could set up your precision. I measure to 1/4 of an inch. I met a designer who, no lie, measures to 32nd of an inch. I do not understand that, There's no need for that, but you know what? If they do, good for them. You can set the program up for that. There's a large design company in town who only dimensions everything to 1/8 of an inch. However you do it, you can set that precision up.
There's a big difference to me between someone that's in a design build where they actually need their builders, they're part of the liability of what their builders are doing. So maybe they need more precision. It makes sense.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Design practice.
But the best part about it is this program can work for you. And that's what we're trying to hit is, so when you when you're working in a plan view, if you're consistently having to fix a dimension, what I want to say to you is stop what you're doing and fix the dimension. Let's get the defaults set up so that way you don't have to do it again. So I measure to the end of the cabinet. We got a question from
Laura, by the way.
Yeah. So Laura, I measure to the end of the cabinet, not to, there's that corner. I don't know what the corner is for. I think it's got to be for if you're dimensioning a cabinet door. I measure to the side.
Well, you're looking at it from the cabinet itself. If you look at it from the other way, if you are dimensioning to the corner space from the kitchen, maybe you're looking at the hip knocker as you round an island and you're looking at what the clearance is between that and the next obstacle, then measuring to the corner is the right place to measure. So, at a diagonal, for instance. So there are places there where the corner makes sense, or they wouldn't have put it in the tool. But for your typical use, laying it out to the nearest wall or to the nearest cabinet or whatever, then the corner doesn't have any purpose. You're right.
No, it should measure how I do it to the side.
Specifically what the corner is. Perfect example of that is this is a corner-based cabinet. It would measure to this returned edge here if you had corners checked.
Well, actually, even if you do
your question,
yeah, that's true,
Laura. So if I had corners checked and if I pick this up, what it's going to do is it's going to pick up this right here.
Which if that's one cabinet, you don't need that dimension.
Yeah.
Christopher asks if you are busily working away in a plan and you find a change that you need to make to your template, do you necessarily have to open up the template, or can you do some voodoo that changes your template while you're working in this plan?
Well,
it's sort of in between. You don't necessarily open up the template, but you may end up, if you're looking at something that you can end up saving as a template, but ultimately you're going to have to modify the template itself.
What I would say is you could change your default and then import defaults. So we have the ability to go file, import, and then import our default settings right here. This guy right here, and then we get a subsequent dialog box. We get to pick a template, and then that gives us one more dialog box where you could clear all, come down here, and hopefully pick up your dimensions somehow, even though I don't see dimensions listed.
I think what he was saying was the other way around. Can you modify the dimension as you're working away in the plan? Can you modify your template dimension that way?
Absolutely. Well, yeah. I always just go to File, Save As Template, and just save the template.
That's it.
Save it as a template. Well. That's what I do.
You're effectively replacing your template, or you're creating a new one. So if you've got a foundation template, a base template someplace that you're using, and you need to modify it without adding the mayhem of whatever plan you happen to be working on right now, you may find it easiest just to have that template available to you to make that same change.
How I change it,
once you make these changes to your defaults and go through this process in depth one time, you've taken care of 90% of what you'll need in the future.
Yeah. I love the idea of what Bill says is let's take a toll. I'd love to know what fraction everybody's using. I'd love to know that. I immediately save it to my template. So what I do is if I make a bunch of changes, if I'm working in a plan, those defaults are in that plan and I'm happy with those changes, then I will just go to File, Save As Template, Save As Template, and then just go through the process of saving it. And then typically what I do is I'll save it with a different name and check it out before I re-add it to my preferences. And so that's just the way I do it.
So the long and the short of the answer, Chris, is nope.
Yeah, because you can't use Save As Template with my templates.
Yeah.
All right. All right,
So
what else
anyway,
you got,
that's
Robin?
what I do. I can't stress enough to make your dimensions, spend the time to get your dimensions as perfect as they possibly can per plan view. Change it if you decide to change how your fraction, your precision, how far away you want to be from your dimension, from an object to pull a dimension, whatever it is, spend the time to fix it now, and then fix it, and then your life will be so much easier.
Norman asked, can we take these settings from X16 to X15? No, you cannot, but you can always input them again in X15. That's not a problem.
The other way around.
Well,
He's
it'll
saying
save
you
your
take
template.
to 16 from 15, he's saying.
Yes.
Settings be imported to, oh, excuse me.
Yeah.
I read that wrong. You're right. Yep, absolutely.
You
And
can
we're
update.
actually on version 24 or whatever, not 16, or X16 version 24.
Right.
26 or something.
If it matters.
Some Roman numeral combination thing there.
So Renee, address what Christopher's having the problem with.
An issue with the dimension line not going close to the item it's picking up. That's going to be in your extensions section of your settings. And keep in
let's
mind,
clarify something.
Yeah.
Can we just clarify the line that goes down to the drawing? That's actually called your witness line. Are you asking, Chris? Are you talking about the witness line not going close enough? Because there's two lines in a dimension. There's the line that goes to the drawing. That's actually called your witness line. And then the line that has the dimensions on it is called your dimension line. What Renee's addressing is, which is what I think you're talking about, is the witness line is too far away from the drawing.
I think Chief calls that an extension line or something.
They do call it extension.
Okay.
Yeah. But our drafting standards, they're not going to follow all the nomenclature all the time. That's
right.
for sure.
And that's what he's talking about.
A lot of it's regional, but that's in our extension settings. So if I pick up, you can edit your dimension defaults right from just clicking on a dimension string. So I can double click this, open it up, and it's inheriting the properties from my dimension default cabinet. So I can change my dimension default here. So if I hit define, then I'm going to get into the extensions panel. And there's a few different ways you can set this up. Now, I have it right now that it's length towards a marked object because I am using auto dimensions and I am specifically dimensioning at different intervals that are set up in automatic. So I have my first line offset 10 inches away from the thing it's dimensioning. Second line offset is 7 inches away. So in my extensions, I'm only moving that extension line 4 inches towards what it's picking up. You could change that. This is an either or situation. So I can change this to a fixed gap from the marked object. So instead of going towards it, I can be from it. So I could set this to be 2 inches from the marked object, and that's going to change and set up the way in that way. And then our length away from marked object, this is how far the extension line goes past your hatch or arrow away from the object. And that's a very confusing statement. But if I set this to 4 inches, you're going to see my extension legs move past my arrows and then away from the object that's being marked from. So let's just
Renee,
go
can
take
you
a look.
actually show that?
Yeah, so you can see here now the extension line is moving past my arrow line 4 inches. So that's what just happened with that setting. And then the other setting we did was
because he's got a 7-inch separation between those two dimension lines. Some of those, even those terms, when you think about that, you're talking about several different factors that all come into play in that one drawing alone. In that you've got the object itself, the drawing, then you've got the dimension line, which he has set his default to 10 inches for his first one. So the distance between that and the first dimension line is 10 inches. He's got his extension going past there by another 4, but the separation between the two dimension lines 7. So it works for him. It works and keeps separation between the lines. All works beautifully. It looks to me like you have your extension lines running clear down to the object, meaning down to.
Well, that's what we just changed. Fixed gap from marked object we set to 2 inches as opposed to what I had it before, which was I just want my extension lines to pop out 4 inches and that's it. So The other thing you could have done instead is fixed gap from mark object, and seeing as my first line offset is 10 inches, maybe we say that that fixed gap is, I don't know, let's call it 5 inches or something like that. And so now this is going to change everything. And there you go. Now I'm 5 inches away from the thing that it's marking. I just like these to be uniform. Personally, that's just my own personal take. It's not following any standard except for something I decided I liked.
And that's what I meant earlier, is that there's no absolute rule here. There are some NKBA standards around the things that they do.
Yeah.
There are some traditions. If you talk to an engineer, the type of dimension, the type of line, the type of arrow, the type of point, everything is important. It all means something different when they look at the plans. So depending on your background, you may look at the plans differently than the next person. Robin looks at the plans as an interior designer would, and she looks at things that are not changing. Like, for instance, she might measure to what Chief and she called the sides of the window, which is the interior of the jamb. She might, somebody else commented that they measure to the casing. And those things to
casing
me
is a pretty strong interior design workflow.
Right.
That's pretty typical, where we're actually speccing the casing profile. And that's the most important thing, is to space from that casing profile.
Yes, and that's important if you know what that is. But if you are instead saying, I'm looking at something and I know that casing is going to change, but I'm not sure to what, well, then it makes more sense to measure to something that you can determine. Since you can't determine the frame size, it might be a 1-inch thick frame or a 3/4 inch thick frame. Then the only thing you have visible to you is the interior sides of the window, the interior sides of the jambs.
Yeah, I don't do spec design. Someone else has to hire a designer that's going to be on site doing spec design. So I don't measure to casing because I'm not speccing the casing. So there you go. Let me address a few comments here. Juan Navarro says, well, he says, hi from beautiful SF Bay Area. I'm from SF Bay Area and it's overcast. So I don't know what you're talking about right now. And then Corrupt is saying, we design, build cabinets. We set our walls as concrete so we don't have layers that with drywall. How do you set your default dims so they only reference the exterior surface of drywall? That's a really easy one in terms of how Chief views what you're talking about here in our definitions. In any one of our definitions for maybe locate manual or setup automatic, you're going to see that there's a designation for surfaces or wall dimension layer. So that's where we're designating surfaces is going to be, in this case, your JIT board, if you do have that in your wall type, versus wall dimension layer. That's going to be your main layer. If you don't know what main layer versus surfaces are, because Chief changes the name of that depending on where you're at, we'll get into wall types and show in definition that our exterior layer is actually considered our surface, right? So our interior layer, here's our interior layer. This would be considered surface. It'd be great if they put in parentheses surface right there, so you knew what the heck we're talking about when we're in dimensions. But don't let me get Kevin started because he'll start yelling. And then here's our main layer, and that's a correct terminology in terms of when we're setting up dimensions. Yeah, we're dimensioning to main layer versus surfaces.
And the main layer, it'd be nice if they called that the structural layer or something,
Yeah, I agree. It'd be nice if they didn't call it layer at all, because now we can, in X16, explode individual layers in the wall type to individual layers in, say, your layer set. So we're getting a lot of layers here. It's really hard to discuss what the differences are between them because we need some other terminology to be able to distinguish them.
One of the things that you may be referring to, if you're using concrete as your wall in order to avoid those layers, is that if you're looking at things from a plan view standpoint, maybe you're trying to do something you don't need to do. You can maintain the wall types the way you want, but you can show the wall types as having the layers reflected in your plan view or not reflected in your plan view, meaning that you can get the full wall width by turning on the wall, what do they call it? Wall layers, something, they call it something strange. I renamed mine, so I don't know. Or you can show just the main layer, meaning the structural layer, or you can show all of the layers and they can be colored or not colored. So if what you're really looking for is, I want something that is the thickness, the width of the wall, but I don't want to show all the layers of the wall. You can do that by having your walls normal, turned on, turn off your main layer only, and you get all the wall layers without having to change your walls to concrete.
I actually have now, I use default sets for something different than we used to use them for. Right now, I'm in a remodel workflow. All I do is switch my default set to new construction, and it switches the dimension defaults, and it also will switch the display of that main layer versus not showing that main layer. So, and then I just have to hit auto exterior, and it's picking up new construction.
Say that again. How do you do that?
Well, that's really complicated.
Yes, but
all I'm doing is I'm switching my default set. So I have a default set that drives the active defaults for this view. So right now I might be dimensioning to my exterior main layer, and then I can just switch a default set. And what it's going to do here, when I switch a default set, it's going to switch my default dimension, or excuse me, my active dimension. So I'm switching to new construction, and it just switched my dimension default. And it also switched my layer set to show a different layer set.
If you are joining us for the first time, then everything that Renee is saying makes no sense to you. If you're joining us for several times in, then you understand that Renee has more tricks up his sleeve than he has sleeve. So you might.
Hey, that's a good phrase, man.
when you listen to what he says, and he says something like, "And I can just click this or click that, and you get this magic," keep in mind that what Renee does is sell his wares, and he is the guy right now standing on the back of the wagon saying, if you would like, I have some fantastic tools for you. All you have to do is contact me. We're in the business to make a living, just like you all are. And I would tell you that if you pick up Renee's tools, you too can do the kinds of things that Renee does. So shop his store and enjoy the view.
Thank you. That was a great plug. I got some really cool stuff coming for X16, so I'm excited about that, including a inexpensive template that is supposed to be easy as cake and not feel so overwhelming. So that's coming. Let's talk more dimensions here. So I have it now set up for our auto interior dimensions. Oh, actually, let me answer a question. We had a question from Ryan Duncan. He said, anyone actually use auto interior dimensions? I do occasionally. You use them?
I do. But the reason I use them is because, for instance, either for a particular room or for the entire structure, I need to very quickly hand off some dimensions in a plan to a builder or whatever, or to a designer. And I can hit auto interior, create those dimensions the way that I have set up auto interior for myself in my defaults, so that they get what I want and only what I want. And then I go in and clean up the things that are irrelevant. It takes me maybe 5 minutes to clean it up. So I do the auto interior dimensions once, and then I have everything I need that I can clean up with all the measurements pulled to the marks that I want them pulled to.
Okay. I'll do them occasionally if I've got a really, so I'm largely remodel is what I'm typically doing. Every once in a while I'm new construction, but I'm usually only remodeling a small section of a house or doing an addition. So I don't always do full dimensions because I don't always even need to show dimensions for other parts of rooms. Something that you can do is you can group select. I believe you could do this in X15 as well. You can group select rooms, and then in your edit toolbar, we have auto room dimensions. So you can just dimension just the rooms you want to dimension if you would like. And then clean it up from there.
Get your dimensions pulled.
What's that?
That's a really fast way to get your dimensions pulled. It sometimes pulls them in strange places that you might not choose aesthetically, but you can slide them left or right or wherever and get what you want out of it.
Yeah. I prefer that my dimension string, like this particular one right here, be pulled all the way through. That's just my preference. So
Yeah.
You know, and then if I need to pick up something else, like maybe I want this same dimension string and I'll bring it over, I'll just copy paste it, bring it over. And maybe it said I want to pick up some additional wall like this, right? And then I might do something like that. So I
There's one thing
just
about
to show you that again.
There for a minute.
What's that?
Stay right there. Pull that dimension back. Undo.
No. Okay. Here, go.
So there is one thing there that a lot of times people avoid pulling the line through because you end up with a whole lot of clutter wherever it's passing through a wall. You have the option of turning off show wall thicknesses, wall widths, I think. And when you do that, now you only get the dimensions of the rooms, not that. Even though you're pulling the line all the way through, you don't show a dimension for the wall width. Once you've established in your plan that all the walls are going to be 4 9/16 or whatever they may be, 6 9/16 or something, then you can skip displaying the wall widths and take a whole lot of that auto-generated clutter out of your plan.
Yeah. The other thing that might help you out if you're picking up a lot of extra stuff is you can change your reach. So we can open this up, get into define again, and then in the general section here, your reach indicates how far will from the point that you're drawing your dimension line through, how far are we picking up on either side of that line, any other potential dimensions. So I have a really low reach set up in my templates, and that means that it's only going to pick up things that are really close to where I'm pulling that dimension string. So you'll notice when I bring my manual dimension tool pretty close to this window, it's not picking this window up, right? It's not picking it up at all. But if I draw it right on top of that window, now it picks it up. So
if you're avoiding interior dimensions or auto interior dimensions because of the clutter, setting the reach is a really great way to avoid the clutter and get only the primary dimensions. In your case, you've got it set up so small that you pretty much have to be on the window in order to pick it up, right? Which is great.
Yeah, and I like drawing right on top of things because then I'll use tab input to do a specific offset. So here I am drawing right through the window, and then I want this specifically 24 inches away. So I hit tab or enter, then I get to relative to the start and in a polar direction of 90 degrees. I want it 24 inches away. So now I know that dimension string is 24 inches away. It's picking up that window. So that's one good trick. I'll show you another one. Oftentimes I want one dimension string drawing through this, but in order to avoid some clutter, I'm drawing it over here for some reason. And so I'll draw it over here. I'll take it this direction, and I'll use our continuation handle and keep drawing through the wall. And there you go. So I've picked up what I needed to, despite me having a low reach. I was able to pick up this wall and then pick up these other walls over here. Let's kick into, we got a couple comments here.
Hey, Carl.
Frank Ching books. I am unfamiliar with that. Will help you with your plan dimension setup. Huh. I've never heard that name either, so that's a new one to me. And Carl, we know your name, so
yeah.
Notice you have a plan and layout for kitchen bath. Yes, they will, and that's coming out very soon. If you buy my upper line template, you get the kitchen bath template with it, as well as some other stuff like my kitchen tools, and that's a new pricing setup. I'm giving you a lot more for your money coming in X16. And we are the goats. Hey, thanks, Prep. We work hard at it. Share tips on how we do our call out labels, arrow lines to details and elevations that lead to text within text boxes. All right.
You're going to see some cool stuff in 16 with regard to those.
Yeah. You're going to get into the weeds with that one if we have some time. Sure. Hi, Dan. Haven't seen her in a while. On the drawings on the screen, is there a way to have the exterior dimensions for the offset on the right align with other dimensions automatically?
When you ask that, are you talking about to align with dimensions on the opposite side of the structure or on the interior of the wall?
The drawing on screen, is there a way to have the exterior dimensions for the offset on the right align with the outer dimensions automatically? Yeah, I'm not quite following that.
I think it's going to have to
Tell
do,
me
if
more.
I'm understanding it correctly, I think it's going to have to do with the snap points that you set for your connect points. So if, for instance, you've got your interiors set to measure to structure, then the ones on the outside would also align with those if you've got the details set up the same way. Exterior dimensions, and then what? All exterior, so on the opposite side of the structure? I don't understand
Okay,
what
she's
you're
asking to do auto. I'll come back to John's question in a second. Here's auto exterior. Do the auto exterior dimensions, okay? And then tell us more. Oh, maybe this piece right here, that it's not running in a continuous string over here. See what I'm saying there?
That's going to have to do with the reach that Renee was talking about earlier. And if you've got it set up to reach, 30 feet, then it may find that point. But
I don't know if that's true, because my reach in for auto exterior is quite large. So
why would it not find it?
I've got 192 inches as my reach. Let's go 500. Why
That's
not?
only 16 feet. So
yeah. There we go. There you go. Here's your reason. Maybe I will increase that.
it'd be nice.
Learning.
That was set up to where you go halfway. Which one is it that you can see halfway through the structure? I think it's the storybook. Story pole.
Yeah. I went through that really quickly, so let me show that again, Diane, so that everybody knows what I just did. So I'm getting back into my dimension defaults, and then in setup automatic, that's our reach here for exterior. Is I increased this substantially to be able to align those on the right hand side. So there you go.
Find it.
And yeah, I think I might commit that change. I'm not sure why I had it at 192. Who knows?
Thanks, Diane.
And then, I mean, here, we'll just show a little bit, because we get to show finally. We get to show X16. We've been waiting to show X16. Something that's very fun about X16 is we've got 3D dimensions. And I think the one useful place that it shows up to me is in this this highest ridge setup here. And you got to set up your camera. Maybe I don't want to show terrain in this view, right? That might be helpful to not show terrain so we can really clearly see these dimensions. And maybe I don't show a backdrop or something like that. And you could also change your text style to have a background fill so that they're really clear to see. And right now I'm using their new performance mode. And if I switched to no performance mode, these are going to start looking really sharp and clear and easy to read. So that's pretty cool.
It's very nice. So effectively, what he's able to see there is that maybe the ridge for the addition that he's getting ready to build is in fact lower than the highest ridge on the house. So it's good things to figure out. Yeah.
Let's see. Someone was asking about callouts. I'll show just a couple things on callouts. And this is advanced. There's no way around this. This is something that's advanced, but they gave us some of the lesser known features in X16 are some of the biggest features to anybody that's a power user. And one of the things that they gave us was XY position in layout and XY position in plan. And what that allows us to do is do some automatic callouts based on where something is on your sheet. And so I'm driving all my callouts for all my details based on where that detail is on my sheet. So it's automatically numbering things for me and updating without me ever having to type. And I mean, I could show that really quickly.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible.
We'll associate something here. I've got some kind of test plan, I think. Test, there we go. It's going to give me a bunch of error messages. That's okay. Oh, we're going to have to talk because it's going to update elevations. It takes a minute to update elevations on a template plan. Call this a warehouse plan. Warehouse method, in case you've never set that up before, just means that we have a set of details and views and plans that are already established, and all we're doing is relinking to our current project, and those views populate and layout. So that's, I call it a warehouse plan anyways.
I don't know that I call it a warehouse plan, but I call a warehouse plan the one that has everything I can drag in from the sides and place in that particular page or drawing. So those are my warehouse plans.
So I'm going to open up the plan that this references. So we just have that to work with. And what you'll see here is I have, when I drop in a call out, I'm just going to drop in this call out. Look at this. Isn't this cool? Kind of picks up which way it wants that section cut. I drop that call out in. I'm going to link this to a CAD detail. So you can get into the link panel or just hit the link button in the toolbar. And I'm going to find some CAD detail that I want to show here. So here's a framing to truss CAD detail. And that's automatically picking up that this is detail 28 on sheet A12. I didn't type anything, right? So that is, what did we say it was? Detail 28? Yep. 28. Here we go. So that's detail number 28. That's this guy right here. Well, check this out. If I had just get rid of this one in the top corner and I take detail 28 up into that top corner, you're going to see here it automatically changed its number to detail 1. You're also going to see back in my plan it automatically changed its number to detail 1. Doesn't get any better than that. So this is part of some of the stuff that's behind the scenes of X16 is we can automate a lot more, not typing nearly as much. It's really, really cool. And then something I've been building is an annotation tool is what I call it. Let me get back to a different view. And this annotation tool will pick up things, whatever you link them to, depending on some settings that you have. So right now it sees it's in a room. It's going to say flooring to be determined. It's outside of a room. It's going to assume you're going to put an area of work box around stuff. If you connect it to a window, it might say that this is a new window per schedule. You connect it to a wall, it's going to say new wall per details. I don't like typing. I never like typing. So this is one of those tools to me that just makes a huge difference, is just being able to automatically automate all my annotations.
I'm going to ask the obvious, but if you have that tool and now I want that, I want to repeat that tool without having to go find it and drag it in again, I can simply cut and paste that tool and it's still going to respond based on where the arrow is pointing. Is that right? Yep. And in fact, it even lives within my default note. So even if you want to just use keynotes instead, or even convert all these, we have an X16, one of your favorites, right? Isn't this one of your favorites where we get to select a couple of bits of text and then right here convert texts to notes? Yes, I love that. Converts it to a plan note. I just need to make sure that this leader is actually connected. So let me just draw a new leader. And then one of my favorites is that you can take this note or a window or whatever is reporting to a schedule, and now we can find schedule from object, and look at that. It's populating those automatic notes from. So let me give an example of why I love that particular one, since we have a few minutes anyway. And that is that when I'm first working with a client, I'm jotting down notes. Those notes used to be in the form of a piece of paper that I would quickly lose and get crumpled up in the bottom of my floorboard in my car. I then started saying, well, I'm going to keep those on a pad. So I would take my notes on a pad and carry them with me, which is great. Then I started saying, why aren't these notes just a part of my plan? So I would jot down the proposed scope of work as little text box pointers to different things within my plan. That would give me then a visual reference to everything that's going in there. And I quickly called that my scope of work plan. But there was no way to get that text to something that I could print out as a scope of work document. Now, all of those things can show up in a schedule, and that schedule can then be used as your scope of work outline for the project.
I love it. I love hearing what people come up with, because I get so much influence from that. I mean, I do, you know, that I do my plan revision response letter, not all that in a different way than what you just described. Like, yeah, that's a great system. there used to be a thread on Chief Talk about people using Chief to do things that weren't architecturally related. And that was a really fun thread because, I mean, at the core of this is a really great graphic editor, text editor in some ways, schedule creator, you know, and it can do a number of different things, including like do info pamphlets and all kinds of things. So
the thing that keeps us on our toes is that we're constantly thinking of how it might be used for something else, and the people at Chief are busy trying to keep up with what we're constantly thinking of.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It doesn't necessarily make complete sense. They may not have 100% coverage of the concepts that we're talking about, but we just push the envelope a little bit with each one.
We're pretty hard on them, but they do a pretty good job. I would like a specific video on that topic of pre-populated views. Okay, noted. Absolutely. Doug says, I would like Chief to allow for the cut view to be reversed or flipped.
You're talking about the section view that is automatically generated by having the section cut flag. Renee, when you pull the section call out close to the next wall, doesn't the flag flip the other direction in X16?
It does, but that's on one side or the other, and maybe he's talking about the arrow flipping itself, which you can do that with a custom-made arrow. I'll just give you an example. Let's see if we have time for an example. Let's see if I can find anything that's related to Kevin Transu in my library. Besides my favorite ones. So here we go. We got Kevin Transu, and we could say that Kevin Transu is actually in this direction as opposed to the other direction.
I'm in that direction a lot, actually.
Yeah, and then this is a CAD block, but you can generate a CAD block, right? And once you've generated that CAD block, I'm going to need to explode it in this case, and then recreate it. Now it's changed its orientation by doing that. And add this to my library. And now if I draw in this section marker and open this up, I should be able to change the section arrow and find Kevin Transu. And now I've got Kevin Transu, and I can rotate, etc.
That isn't what
kind of letting us know that the orientation is this direction from the start. So.
Yeah, and that's what I was asking, I think, and maybe you're addressing it, is I thought what Doug was asking is if I am currently seeing the section view from one perspective, but oops, I really wanted it to show from the other perspective. So I'm looking right, I wanted to look left. Then the flag is going to determine that. And I was thinking in 16, when you drag that close to the next wall or object, it flipped the flag, but maybe
no, it won't flip the direction it's going in. So you'd have to make a new view. But if you have annotated that view, you can, all your annotations are CAD based. So you could copy all of your annotations, paste them in the new view, and then reverse those instead. And at least that's saving you a little bit of time.
That's a good thought.
How do I get a window label to show foot in inch and superscript on my plan? My window label is a very complex bit of code. And it takes a custom font for a full height superscript. So my window label has a bunch of different conventions in it. Once you minimize it down to a dimension that you set, it truncates its label, or you can use a tool from my toolbar to truncate the label if you like, or revert that back. You can use a tool in my toolbar to say that this window is an existing window versus a new, or revert that back. Once you switch to a window order overview, it's going to just state that it's, just the schedule number itself. Again, if we say that it's existing, it's going to say that it's not applicable. If you switch this to a framing view, like the floor plan, it's going to give you the rough opening size. So this is like, I don't know, 800 lines of code to make this happen. So it's not an easy question to answer, but I'm essentially remapping inches to superscript font, and
think,
then I have
I think
a custom font.
I think it is an easy question to answer, and that's that the
Go
question
buy my thing.
is it for sale on your store?
Yeah, it is.
There you go. So so there's an easy way to do it.
Use sim or OH by the call out circle.
I think you're referring to flipping the elevation, not the elevation to section. Is that true?
I am not sure what these acronyms are referring to.
Sim is similar, I believe. I'm not an official.
Oh, similar or other hand? No, I'm not sure. Carl, tell us more. We got 5 minutes. Tell us more. Kevin, it says you mentioned that you use a half arrow. What are you referring to there?
Okay, so in the arrow types, now I'm not driving the boat here, but opposite hand, there you go.
Opposite hand. I was close.
Yeah, on the other hand, so let's see, on the arrow types, if you go into anything and look at the arrow type, so for instance, if you're looking at a dimension line default and you pick the arrow type for that dimension type, then you can specify all kinds of different arrowheads. The half arrows are the ones that I'm describing as a half arrow, shows the arrowhead. Well, there you go. I'll let him just show you, and I don't have to.
There you go.
So you can get those, but what I found out from my engineer is that you don't use those for anything but indicating a direction, like for instance a joist direction or something like that. Those are not intended to be things that are attached to an object. So even though they look cool, that's not their purpose. So that was a new one for me to say, oh, I'm not using the arrowhead correctly. Well, that raised the other question, which is what other arrowheads am I not using correctly? It seems.
Well, wait, to be clear, the half arrow is used for
direction, for indicating a direction.
Yeah.
Yeah. So not to be used as attached to an object.
Yeah.
The other thing, they're the flags for the section views. And if you cruise up higher to the other choices for arrowheads, then you get into more of the typical arrowheads. The ones that are most commonly used in a technical document are going to be either the dot or the what I call the slash, which is actually called a tick mark, I think, among engineers. And those can be, a little bit changed a little bit to your preference. It doesn't necessarily have to be solid or open or surrounded.
It could be a Kevin.
Sir?
It can be a Kevin.
It could be a Kevin if you wanted it to be. I do like showing up in as many places that Renee has as possible. It's always comical to find it some demonstration where he's panning around a room and find me leaning up against a counter. Anyway, those arrowhead types are relevant to the type of document or the type of measurement that you're showing. So where a tick mark is very easy to see and use, especially in a drawing where the angles are all perpendicular to each other, meaning like rectangular rooms and lines pulled off of them, there's no confusion in seeing an angled arrow in the form of a tick mark. In other places where you might have some complexity in the drawing, maybe a dot is better because you're not thank you, or you're not confused by that. So
keep going.
Sorry, you make me stop thinking here for a minute. So sometimes I think, Renee, you use the solid dot quite a bit, don't you?
I like the dot, yeah.
So the dot works out really well. It's not as absolute in terms of, you can interpret that dot. Did you exactly center it on the line? Is it really pulled to the interior surface or the structural layer? But at the same time, it also relieves some confusion when you're trying to throw a tick mark into an angled set of stairs. So some there I am. Let me turn that. See, you see me now? There, see? Anyway, so different arrows mean different things.
How do we do a global change? You know what? We cannot do a global change of arrow types, but you can get close. I would just say that you're going to use select marquee similar. in a view and then select all similar and then change it. But that's not going to be global. That's going to be plan view specific and view specific. So you'd have to change that.
Renee, where you are, where you have established some default or some dimensions that you've not tugged, pulled, or otherwise changed into something else, and then you go in and change the default for those dimensions. Like I think
you could do it for dimensions. You could do globally for dimensions.
For the arrowheads.
Yeah.
For the yes.
Yeah, but you're not going to be able to get all your text arrows or anything like that globally changed. It's not like text styles. Send that in as a suggestion. By the way, I know we throw suggestions in chief talk, but ultimately, I find that the best way to do it is go into your chief architect account, and in reporting where you report problems, you can also report suggestions. And that's a really great way to make sure that you're just getting your suggestion logged right away. So I would log that, because I would love to have global changes for fill styles and global changes for arrowheads. I think is a great idea. So there you go.
Mark asked the question, where's a good reference to find the types of arrows that should be used in the industry? There's a couple of answers there. One of them is you can do your own research, look at AIA standards or whatever it might be, but there's different things for different types of occupations. Another one that we lean on quite heavily is to ask the expert of your choice, and we're all for sale. So don't forget that we make our living by helping you, and we would love for you to engage us to be the phone a friend that you need. So so call us.
We're not as busy as you think we are. So yeah, give us a call.
Not as busy as you think we are. We love to do these kinds of things and help with all of it. And it may seem like we're overwhelmed, but a lot of times we're waiting for the phone to ring just like you are. So keep us in mind and call us when you need help or can. It is 1 o'clock, 1:02 actually. So we need to break off and let you all get back to your day jobs as we get back to ours. So it's been a pleasure. I'm not sure that we actually stayed on track, but that's not unusual for us. So bear with us when we go into the ADD mode.
Yeah, we could do a lot more on dimensions.
We could do a lot more on dimensions. We could do a lot more on the X16 features. We could do a lot more on a lot of things. It's just that I know in that last analysis of the plan that we saw, there was a lot of different dimension issues going on with that. And we wanted to say, if they're going on here, they're going on other places, let's just address them. I think we could probably talk for another 4 hours on the different types and uses and strategies around them. So call us anytime, or we'll set up another time to talk.
Wendy, thank you. Mark Beatty. All right, we're out of here.
Bye, everybody.